What's going on, Kingslayer community and trading card game community? My name's Travis. I own and operate Kingslayer Games in Southern California. And I just had a call with Yolanda, who's in Northern California, and her two business partners are looking at starting a game store. I get these calls pretty regularly, especially right now with Pokemon being so hot. And she had some questions about opening a local game store. Is in the process of doing that, has a TCG player store, and is looking at starting a brick and mortar store. And had a 30-minute call. She gave me permission to record it and post it, so I'm just going to share that here on our YouTube channel for those that are curious about starting a local game store and in the card space. There was some stuff that came up that she thought was pretty useful. So enjoy. Here we go. This is Yolanda up in Northern California talking about opening a trading card store. My name's Travis. I own and operate Kingslayer Games in Southern California. We've got 3 stores down here. And this is Yolanda, correct?
Correct.
Awesome. And you and your business partner are in like the discovery phase for opening a local game store. And you had reached out. You saw something, one of the videos I posted on YouTube. And this is this really like a discovery call in our first time meeting. And you've got a handful of questions prepared so we can go over and see if I can provide any insight to help you kind of plan out the next period of time. But there you go. There's an intro, and then we can be a little bit more casual and go for it.
Sounds good. Okay, so the business itself, I think it's going to be 3 of us that are going in on it.
Okay.
It's me, my partner Jimmy, who you've spoken with, and then our friend Ala. Jimmy and Ala's been in the scene of TCG for a couple years now, dating. I mean, they started when they were young, but also really got back into it during their college years, which has been like around, I want to say 7-10 years now. They were very involved in Magic. We went over to Pokemon. Now currently we're more focused on One Piece, but we're pretty well aware of like the space. I know there's also Lorcana, but we haven't dabbled in there. We also know, so we're based in NorCal. I'm Hayward. Jimmy's is Tracy. We mostly frequent Modesto, Fresno area. Tracy doesn't have any card shops to be frank, but they used to. It shut down due to a legal what is it? They got sued for not for ADA non-compliance. But that's besides the point. So we're in that space. We also are aware of like a couple card shops down in Dublin area. There's a handful in San Jose, Santa Clara area, and I think there's one major one that's in Fremont. So we're very well aware of like the card shops within this NorCal space.
Sure.
And we frequently go to each of them just because I mean, the owners are friendly and we just like to see what each of these stores are offering, what we like from these stores, and what they could do better. From our side, we've been mostly online. I do have a few questions for you about that later. But we've mostly been on TCG Player. I know for sales volume, we don't have as many as like the well-established people on TCG Player, but we have enough that has put us through level 4. And it's been like, we get sales here and there. The reason why we would want to eventually, create a car shop is because I think we could cater, or we could create a community that, could be another source that provides the a location, but also because me personally, I don't actually play TCG as much as Ala and Jimmy. I go with them and I enjoy the people there, but I also would like a card shop that has another space where I could do arts and crafts, and that would cater to the audience of like maybe the people would come with their friends, or maybe not all of them play TCG or like indulge in cards, but they could also be within the same space and do other activities. And so that's the kind of vision for where we want to be. My question for you in us starting this business is distributors. So like we hear a lot about like having strong distributor relationships, and like when you to get a distributor, you should have a physical location. That's another reason why we want to take a physical, so we can actually have access to more products. Um, so I guess like what comes first? Like, do we have to secure the location and start off our business by buying products from what's already out there from other businesses, and then sell from there, and then create that distributor relationship? Or is there a way to create the distributor relationship prior to securing a location?
Yeah, those are all really good questions. So I would it's pretty natural. That's like the progression I went down to was like I wasn't doing cards, but I was buying and selling used video games and toys and
Mm,
books on eBay,
yeah, cheap.
Amazon, and that sort of thing. And then that rolled into needing distributors, and then you start to contact basically any distributor that will give you product before you have a retail location, and then you just start making a list of all the ones that need you to have you retail first, and then you're just trying to understand like how much of a benefit that is. But I would back up a little bit first,
Okay.
and I want to look at your partnership setup, and so I'm sole owner of Kingslayer. I was looking at partnership at different points, and I have friends that
Mhm.
own stores that are sole owners or partners. A lot of like husband wife combinations, or friends or that partner up. And I would say generally speaking, the partnership stores are like much harder to be successful, and
Oh.
because in the first like 5 years the business can be there's like not enough profits. Maybe not five. Use the 5 year term loosely, but there's not enough profit to take in the beginning stages of the business to really support three partners. At least in my experience, and it's usually the opposite. Like usually, you guys are need to be putting a lot of money into the business in the beginning, and it can get without like a clear partnership agreement. That can get difficult really quickly. So I have recommendations. So since you're at this phase, the TCG Player Store, who or what the business is formed in California, is it set up as a sole proprietorship or an LLC right now for the TCG Player Store?
Sole proprietor, no LLCs set in
Okay.
place. That's a question as well. Once we take this physical, is that something that you recommend setting up? I know LLC is to protect the business. Um, I imagine it's protecting the business from like getting sued and stuff. I don't know how that really plays with a TCG
If
like store.
if you're going to do a partnership with multiple owners, you
Mhm.
would definitely you would absolutely not want to do a sole proprietorship, because
I see.
there's no like shares of the company to split. So like what if
Mhm.
you were to do so I guess so do you own the TCG Player Store?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And then Jimmy, and is it Allah?
Yeah.
So
ALLA.
so they're just are they any part of this business right now, or is right now it's you, and then if you were to go physical, you're considering bringing them in as partners?
Yeah, it's mostly me right now. I get the products from them
Okay.
because they buy a lot, they play a lot, and whatever they are done with using or whatever they have in excess, they're like, here, just put it on the store,
Yeah.
and I handle it from
And
there.
you like buy it from them basically to put it on the store.
Yeah, I don't actually buy it. It's almost like a throwaway for them.
Okay.
So
Okay.
they just send it over.
Like donation type thing.
Yeah.
Um, so that's one. So if you so the problem ends up with the partnership part. What's going to end up happening is someone's going to have to put down, like, there's going to be some startup capital that you'll need. So, and the main, it
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily need to be a lot of money, and
Mhm.
but the deposit, you'll need to have first month's rent for this physical space, and then you'll need to spend an amount of money preparing that space, to just be able to get distributors. Like it needs, the distributors and Pokemon and Magic and all the distributors in the space will need to see photos of your space. They'll have different requirements in terms of how many
Mm.
chairs that need to be, like
Oh,
how
I didn't know.
presentable it needs to look, that your outdoor signage. Wizards has some weird qualifications for like wanting your outdoor signage to be backlit, which that can be like 8 grand or something. You're going to want to install security gates if you don't have one in your space. It's and these things can be done in phases, and they can be done by sole owners. Um,
Mhm.
but what will end up happening is someone's going to need to keep financing all this, and if you're giving away ownership of your company at the start to people that are not able to contribute as much financially as you, then it's better to have them as employees than as
Mm.
partners. So
Okay.
um, I would. So maybe you're like, no, no, no. Like this is my thing. We're gonna do. I'm doing a partnership for sure. If that was the direction you were gonna go, um, then what's gonna need to happen is when it's time for you to spend, 10 grand on or 15 grand on your deposit and your rent, you need to do that. That if it's a 33, 33, 33, you'll want to get them all to contribute the same amount. So whenever any money goes into the company, or whenever you're
Hmm.
distributing profits, you would want to distribute them according to the rate at which they have ownership, and you never want to deviate from that. And that'll be so hard. That'll be so difficult because there'll be times where
Okay.
they don't have the money,
Hmm.
um, and so you could, there's other ways you could be 80%, they could be 10-10 or something. But then
Hmm.
for me, it ends up being so much more beneficial for the employee and for you to have 100%, and then just pay them as employees, and then you can pay them well, especially as the business does well. That's what I ended up doing was, we have 3 salaried staff members now, and we've got another 20 that are hourly, but they're anywhere from part-time to full-time. We have benefits for our full-timers, which is not required in California, but we do it as a perk. So like we end up paying our people kind of abnormally well for the industry, but we don't offer like employee ownership or any sort of ownership
Hmm.
options. So I don't know. I would probably think about that first, because all that stuff needs to happen really before those decisions need to be made kind of before you form the business, before you start applying for distributors. And then
Okay.
yeah, in terms of like what distributors to use, like I've got recommendations. We're in California as well, so like a lot of my reps would potentially be your reps, and I can. They always love when I'm like, hey, I've got I have another store that's coming online. Do you want to help them out? And they're like, yeah, sure. So so yeah, I hope that answers some of the questions for the partnership, or I don't know if it gives you any clarity. And then LLC for sure allows you to have some flexibility there.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you. For the distributors, are you mostly initially finding them through like what is listed on the websites? Like I know, what was it? There was like a one piece page, and it listed a bunch of distributors that you can contact first. Is that really how you usually start looking for
Yeah,
these distributors, and you
I,
just contact a bunch of them and see what is required,
sure.
and then go from there?
Yeah, so I can help you with all that stuff. So I
Okay.
can send you a message on Discord with like all the distributors that we use, and you can fill out. They all have like some version of a contact form that they'll reply to
Hmm.
at different pace. Right now is going to be crazy because Pokemon is like on fire.
Yeah,
So it's
we know.
a lot of vendors are going to be like, we're not taking new business, or what have you,
Mhm.
especially if you don't have a physical space. A year ago it was not the case. Like Pokemon was like almost like selling at cost a year ago, and so that would be a different situation. But it kind of comes and goes, and the FOMO
Mhm.
hype for Pokemon will die down again, and it'll be a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think there's I can send you the list. There's basically like 4 big ones, and a couple like extra ones that we use for TCG stuff.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Hmm.
And then when people talk about like having a strong distributor relationships, what do they refer to, or like what do they consider in building that relationship? Is it like the cadence at which you purchase, and of course like the payment, or is it like also payment volume because of like how much you purchase and consistently purchase, or is it like actually how you speak and treat them? Maybe if it's through email or however other communication channels you use.
Yeah, that's a cool question. Yeah, I like how you asked that question. I think it's um, like I had a sales background, so being able
Mhm.
to like communicate effectively with someone, that like a lot of times distributors are giving you bad news, and so
Mhm.
um, and you have to think like they're always dealing with all these game stores that are kind of like crying and complaining about allocations and saying like, oh, I'm not getting, well, you're only giving me this. And so I think I always keep in mind when I'm talking to them, like, they probably want to give you more product,
Yeah.
and so like it's how you like approach that.
Mm, okay.
And so like all if we get bad news from like a journey together allocation, I'm like, wow, this stinks. This is way less than we got for Surging Sparks. Like, how do I approach that conversation? Usually it comes my strategy would be like, hey, I know that you went to bat for me, or I know that you really tried hard, but is there anything we can do on like, what can we do to help kind of massage this
Mhm.
relationship to a little bit more? And we've been doing business with them long enough now that we kind of know the program. They're all a little bit different. So some of the things that you mentioned was like spend. So spend will definitely drive volume, for some distributors more than others, and some distributors just get more product from certain like GTS gets a lot of product from Bandai. They were like the almost
Mm.
exclusive Bandai. But Alliance does too, and then now some other distributors are getting some amounts of like Union Arena or some of these other games. So, I think there's certain ones that you have to be a little bit stronger with, but yeah, I think being pleasant on the phone and like just being, and you can ask them those questions and they're all a little bit different. You can ask like, hey, if I spend like $10,000 on accessories in a month, like will that help my allocation? And you can kind of ask that stuff. And each one works a little bit differently. Some you need to call every week. Some will call you every
Oh,
week.
okay.
Some are like online portal only and don't really, you talking to them at all doesn't matter. So I think it's kind of like a mixed bag in terms of like you'll end up building your network of distribution and brands that you buy from, and then you'll have to like each one of those will require like a little bit of a different approach.
Okay. Oh, that's good to know. Yeah, my next follow-up was going to be like the cadence at which you purchase. But it seems like once you get that relationship set up, then it differs
It
from
ends
one
up
to another.
weekly. I mean, weekly is basically how this
Mhm.
industry works. Like we support organized play for 9 or 10 different trading card games right now. So every week something is releasing. So you're buying from them weekly. And to start, you'll be doing cash terms or effectively like credit card terms to start, and
Mhm.
then over time, over years, like you can build up net 15, net 30. I don't know if you're familiar with what that means. Or like basically you have 15 or
Yeah.
30 days to pay them back instead of paying up front. But that's the other part. As for you, as a business owner getting into this, you're going to have an upfront cost for equipment and space and getting your store looking good. But then you also want to have like, you want to have an amount of product on the store and in the store when you open. And then I have some strategies for that. I think going like really thin in terms of like having a good variety, but not being too deep on any specific SKU or product is, especially in the beginning. Then you can start buying according to like what you're selling in your stores and what games are doing well. But yeah, the cadence is generally weekly.
Okay, that's good to know. For inventory to start, is there a suggested amount that you recommend? We had talked to one owner at a store once. He said he started with 30K, I believe, worth of product to start. And the store looked fairly empty, I want to say.
Hmm.
Is that just because maybe it was not a great deal, or is that just how it is? Or like what is the recommended to start?
Yeah, I don't I I think it can be I think it can be almost nothing, honestly, because
Oh.
what you're really doing, and I'm kind of exaggerating, but I guess to
Mhm.
make the point, but the what you're really doing when you're opening your store is you're building a community. So you're building
Yes.
and like the people that are playing, whether it's Pokemon or Magic or One Piece or whatever they're playing or collecting, you're trying to acquire those folks into your community. We use Discord for everything. Like Discord is our
Mhm.
main way to say it's so nice because when people join our Discord, they can say what store they shop at and what games that they like, and then we can tag them based on those interests. So if they're into Pokemon and One Piece, like they don't have to get notified about our Magic drops or whatever. Um, so yeah, when you think about like how much money do I need to have to open the store, how much product do I need to have, I think there's like it's such a diverse range. Like if you've
Mhm.
only got 5 grand to spend on inventory, like just do that. Like you can just buy like one of each thing that's relevant to you that you can afford at that time, and then and kind of save up for maybe like a release or a pre-release, that sort of thing, and then just open and start acquiring community members. And like for us, it's every person that walks in the door that we get into our Discord or that says like, "Cool, I'll be back on Friday to play Magic." And then that Friday comes and you've got like 4 people at your first F&M. Like that's your foundation. Like cool, you got something to work with.
Mhm.
And then throughout the course of those next 6 days until that next Friday, you're just trying to get people in, trying to teach them how to play games, trying to add them to your community. You're advertising on social media and all the different places that you can have your business listed on Google or Yelp or whatever. And you're building communities brick by brick, and then over time that's the value of your company, and how much product you have on the shelf is important. Like you'll need, as you start to have people come in the store, you want them to have something to buy, but
Yeah.
I don't like it doesn't need to be 30,000. At some point it does, but it doesn't need to be on day one. And that's why I was talking to a store in Utah, and he's like he hasn't opened yet, and he's like, "Oh, I'm bummed because I'm not able to buy enough stuff for my opening." And I'm like, "Just to
Mhm.
open, and you'll be able, that'll come with time, and in a year or two, it'll make so much more sense when you've got like, oh, cool, I've got, I've got $500,000 of inventory across the 3 stores to sell at any given time. And then we kind of slowly build that up as we add our SKU counter or what have you. But in the beginning, it can be 5,000, it can be 30. And, but I think it's important that you like the structure and framework is building community, not necessarily like how much stuff we have to sell, if that makes sense.
Okay. That's really good insight because I know all of us were worried about like, oh, would we have that distributor relationship to even get products on the shelves, to even provide anything? Because I mean, me and Jimmy, like I said, we go to a lot of different card shops, and one of the first things we notice is like whether or not they have people in stores, whether or not they have events, and then we also look at whether or not the products that they have are is like what we're looking for. Because I mean, for me personally, I look at a lot of singles. I collect certain Pokemon, and then Jimmy, he looks at like the actual booster boxes themselves, and like depending on what card games he's playing at the moment, he looks at those individual singles. But yeah, we definitely look at inventory to see, you know, if this card shop would cater to what we usually look for. And so I was worried about like, you know, would we even have enough to start, or like is actually how much we would need to make it not look like we're a dead shop when we just opened. Because first impression I think would matter to some extent.
Yeah.
And then hopefully they would come back and give us a second chance if it does look bare. But that's good to know
Yeah.
that it could be.
I think it ends up being like there's different versions of that. So there's the minimum viable product to be open, to have like Costco tables and chairs and just a you know, sticker on the door that says we're a card shop, is like the $5,000 store. And sometimes if that's all you can afford, and then you bring your community along on that journey with you, like, hey, and you can just have like, I don't know, like something written down somewhere, or a pitch that you say like, hey, we're rolling out 3 phases of growth. Like our first phase is we're in like community development, and we have a local game store, and we have some product, but yeah, this isn't like the most developed version of what I want my game store to be. But I think it depends on like some people like wait to start so long that it holds them back. And I don't think it's like, you know, there's caveats to all of this, but I think there's like tiers. Like you could start the $5,000 game store, you could start the $30,000 game store, you could start a $3 million game store. But and you're right, first impressions are important. But I think if you're the owner and you're behind the counter and you get to tell them the story, like, yeah, we decided to jump in and open now instead of waiting 6 months to make sure we had the right logo or right color paint or whatever. So I think it depends on you and like what you might have a certain standard that is important to you, and and that first impression is really important to you. So you wait until you're at a certain level. But I think it's just important to be open and start acquiring community members, because that ends up being your currency more than the distributor. The distributor relationships are important in those things, but the community is what like you'll live and die by.
Okay, that's good. Good insight and good reassurance to know that, you know, I think there's a lot at play when you do storytell and you're transparent with people who come into your store. So good to know.
For sure.
A lot of people suggest starting an online store before going physical. I mentioned that we started on
That's great.
TCG Player level 4. So far, reviews has been great, and we're ready to jump in physical. Do you think that people are suggesting online first? Is it more for like the brand awareness, or is it more to understand what like the people are looking for in the market? Why do you think, or maybe you think differently? Maybe you don't think that we should be doing online first, or if what we're doing currently, the TCG Player, is online already. I guess I'm trying to better understand
Like why they say that.
Yeah, why they say that.
Yeah.
Do they mean like, you know, a whole new website, this is their brand and it's well established, or is it just like any sort of online presence just so that you understand, and you're not just a random person just going into the card community?
Yeah.
Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure who. I guess depending on who said to do an online store.
It's a common one, actually.
Okay, just like in general.
Because we watch a lot of videos, but we also talk to a lot of owners, and a lot of times they mention the whole starting online first.
Yeah, I think so. Some of that may come from just like getting familiarity with the shipping process, or like immersing yourself in the hobby so you understand the consumer or the product. For me, it would be you want cash flow before you open, if possible. And
Mm.
some stores don't, and they just kind of go for it, and like just walk into it with not any cash flow movement, and they walk into it with debt or some sort of financing situation. For me, it was
Mhm.
build the revenue first out of my apartment, which was buy, sell, trade of like whatever I could find, garage sale type stuff 10 years ago. And then once you start building that revenue every month on, for us, it was Amazon, eBay, and I wasn't doing cards yet. Then I was doing about $25,000 gross sales a month out of my like apartment before I got this 1,000 square foot office space in Fountain Valley. And I
Yeah,
found
or
that,
Jimmy was raving about it. He was like
oh,
the impressive start. Yeah.
it was a lot of luck. And I also say I also had a full-time job. So I was full-time job in outside
Mhm.
sales. And so that's where I mitigated so much risk because I was working full-time and because I did like a side hustle on the side that ended up, which wasn't my first. I had done some other side hustle stuff that didn't work. But this was
Mhm.
one that started to get some traction, and there was some gross profit, and I was like, cool, got the full-time job, which is my safety net. I've got this other thing that has some gross profit, and there was this kind of calculated risk to move it out of my apartment into 1,000 square foot space for, it was $1,000 month to month rent, subleasing like an office. And that was the first like, cool, can I run a business outside of my apartment now? And there's like new complexities to that. Um, and so the reason why I would say do the online store first, which you've already done, is you're building cash flow. So you already know when you're calculating risk. My TCG player store is already generating, I don't know if it's like 5 grand a month or 10 grand a month. So you already know, or whatever that is, you already know, and you have the mechanism to churn through that. And the second you open, you can offer certain rates to buy singles, and you can straight go and list that. You've already got a system, you already ship, and you can convert that into cash within like, I don't know, 2 weeks based on how fast TCG player pays you. I guess like maybe a little bit less. So so you've already gotten out. Like you've got a nice solid out. It's a stage 4 store, and you can start buying singles like immediately. So I think that's great. And if it was 10, 15, 20 grand on online before opening, then your business kind of already started like, months ago. You just happen to be in a physical space now.
Mhm.
Whereas if you're jumping into the physical space without any cash flow, or like if you can, I don't know your employment situation, but if you have a full-time job and you can do this
Yeah.
on the side, like and I did that for 3 years before I got fired from that job, and then went and did Kingslayer full time. So maybe 4 years. So it was a lot of pain, a lot of 80-hour weeks, a lot of kind of like in my late 20s, early 30s, of like just burning the candle at both ends to establish something. And then it started to pay off like later on down the road. But that's why the cash flow, getting cash flow soon is the
Okay.
what I would do.
That's reassuring. Yeah, I do have a full-time job. This is like we would hope that it would be more side thing and then eventually turn full. And that's kind of the reason why we decided to do the three-way partnership. Is because then it won't feel like one person is drowning and taking care of everything. Because we all have our full-time jobs. But okay, I can discuss it with them later and see. I intend on running targeted Facebook ads, Google ads where possible after our website is set up. Once we do have that physical location, maybe it's a mix of both, building it and also working to set it up. Um, is there anything specific that you would recommend just from what have you been running in now that has worked well in marketing your shops that you would suggest or have what I mentioned basically covers a majority of it? I think we also thought about like going on college campuses because we do know certain college campuses actually do have clubs and organizations that cater to these type of interests. And so maybe plugging our space as like a place that they could also come and use if they want to host tournaments or they want to host any locals, like they could also use our space. Maybe we work a partnership with them and build a community that way as well. But yeah, what are your thoughts? Any suggestions, any input there?
Yeah, I think you'll find well, so this industry, as you know, because you guys are like fans of it and already in it, this product kind of sells itself.
Yeah,
Um, you
depending. Yeah.
you seek out game stores, right? The communities that we are that we're putting together are of people that are obsessed with card games or Warhammer or board games or
Hmm.
video games or whatever
Yes.
the gaming like stuff that we sell. The people that are shopping for that are generally obsessed with it, and there's some gifting and some like impulse buy. Like if you put your store in a mall, like this is a little bit different. But assuming
Hmm.
that you're making a game store for like tournaments, and you may not get like a mall, maybe you are, maybe you aren't. This product ends up selling itself. So you just need to make sure people are aware that you exist. Which for us historically, Instagram ads are going to be incredibly effective and affordable. So and we run those off and on about every other month at each store, just to kind of like shout from the rooftops to make sure people have moved into the area or like connecting with their hobbies. They have like they know that we exist. But I think yeah, between Instagram and just having a listing on Google and Apple Maps and Yelp, that's I think that's like the minimum, and you'll be surprised with how many people will see you on their phones on Instagram when you start advertising there.
Hmm.
Of course, like TikTok's great, and some of the other social media platforms are awesome for exposure. And we also do. I stream on Twitch every Thursday, but that's kind of like I wouldn't really recommend doing that in the first year. Like you just don't have the time,
Okay.
but unless you're already doing that, I don't know. But so like there's other ways to put yourself out there, but I think Instagram ads and business listings, like you'll be surprised. People are like on the hunt for this stuff anyways, and
Yeah, that makes sense.
so and then once they're in your store, then it's your job. Oh, join my Discord, like, and then you can kind
Hmm.
of have them in your circle forever, and that's so yeah, you'll all that stuff will come in time.
That makes sense. I definitely missed the Yelp and Apple Maps. That should have been like one of the first I thought of, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, cool. I think well, at least I'm out of time, but I
Cool.
appreciate you going over. I was praying that I would get in my questions. There's still a few more
Yeah.
that I think you actually touched upon along the way. So, if there's anything, I hope that I could message you,
Yeah. So on
and then you can
Discord,
just respond
yeah,
via
just
like
fire off on
text.
Discord. I may
Okay,
not be able to reply like
cool.
immediately, but I'll
No worries.
I always get back to them eventually. So yeah, feel free to message me on Discord, and I'd be happy to help you all. And yeah, if you have any other future questions, just reach out that way. And if you want to set up a call, I have done like paid consulting at certain points,
Mhm.
and I just don't have the time to do it like consistently. So I kind of do like this type of a call to see if I can be helpful in this like kind of a 30
No,
minute
this was
window.
really helpful.
Cool.
I feel like I got so much information that I haven't seen in
For
some of
sure.
the videos that we watch. And we watched quite a few. So this has been great. And we are really, really appreciative that you are offering your time like this.
Sure.
Um, yeah, community is very thankful to have you.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, yeah,
I
and
speak on behalf of the TCG community.
thank you.
No,
I'm glad that we have
no,
an
but yeah,
official
we're really
spokesperson.
grateful that you're sharing like this and you want to encourage others to also build communities within their space.
Yeah, I'm kind of the TCG optimist. So like I think we've got like it's a great community and there's a lot of room for growth. So
Mhm.
yeah, let's keep in touch.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. It's a lot of fun. Appreciate Yolanda having the time to hang out. Hopefully, it was helpful for her on taking these next steps in her journey. And yeah, what do you think? Let me know if you have any questions. Agree or disagree with some of my feedback, or want to hear some more news and notes about the industry moving forward, or if you'd like this type of content. So, thanks for watching. See you next time. Be good to each other. Later.